Good morning, students. Today we are going to do chapter number 9, The Great Stone Face, part 1. The writer of the story is Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now, children, here the story is also again of the nature. It has been called as the Old Man of the Mountain or the Great Stone Face or the Profile. It is a series of 5 granite cliff ledges which is spotted in Cannon Mountain in White Mountains, and it is in US, New Hampshire. It is 1200 feet above Profile Lake, 40 feet tall. The face is, you can see the face 40 feet tall and 25 feet wide. You can see here the U-shaped valley shaped by the glaciers. It is formed from freezing and thawing of water in cracks of granite bedrock 12,000 years ago. Now let us do the reading and the explanation part of the chapter. Seen from a distance, hilltops and huge rocks seem to assume various shapes. They may resemble an animal or human figure. People attribute stories to these shapes. Some stories come true, others don't. The Great Stone Face is one such shape that reminds the inhabitants of the valley of a prophecy. Who was it? Did it come true? Now, resemble means look like. Attribute means assign. Inhabitants, people who live there. Prophecy means future prediction. It was a belief to many people that the valley owed much of its fertility to the kind of face of the great stone that was continually looking over it. This is a story which is seen from the hilltop, huge rocks. Some they assume various different types of shape. They resemble an animal or human figure. Now people make different types of attribute stories to these shapes. Some they come true, the stories come true, but some do not. So let us see about the story, The Great Stone Face. One afternoon when the sun was going down, a mother and her little boy sat at the door of their cottage talking about the great stone face. They had only to lift their eyes, and there it was, plain to be seen, though miles away, with the sunshine brightening all its features. And what was the great stone face? The great stone face was a work of nature, formed on the perpendicular side of a mountain by immense rocks, which had been thrown together so that, when viewed at a proper distance, they resembled the features of a human face. If the spectator approached too near, he lost the outline of the enormous face and could see only the heap of gigantic rocks piled upon another. Now, here perpendicular means rising very steeply. Immense means huge. Spectator means the viewers. Enormous, very big. Gigantic, immense or huge. Here one afternoon, a mother with her son, Ernest, was at the door of their cottage. They were talking about the great stone face. The great stone face was a work of nature. It was formed on the side of the mountain by huge rocks. They had been thrown together in such a position so that when viewed from some distance, they resembled the face of human face. If the spectators approached too near, the outline of the face would disappear into the heap of gigantic rocks. But seen from a distance, the clouds clustering about it, the great stone face seemed positively to be alive. It was the belief of many people that the valley owed much of its fertility to being face that was continually beaming over it. A mother and a little boy, as we said earlier, sat at the door of their cottage, gazing at the great stone face and talking about it. The child's name was Ernest. Clustering means gathering. Beam means kind and gentle. Beaming means looking over it. A mother and a little boy, as we said earlier, sat at the door of their cottage gazing at the great stone face and talking about it. The child's name was Ernest. Mother, said he, while the great face smiled on him, I wish that it could speak, for it looks so very kindly that its voice must be indeed be pleasant. If I ever see a man with such a face, I should love him very much. If an old prophecy should come to pass, answered his mother, we may see a man sometimes with exactly such a face as that. Now, here the young Ernest gazed at the great stone face. It smiled to him. Ernest wished that it could speak because it looked very kindly. He thought its voice must be pleasant. He would love the man dearly whoever bore such face. What prophecy do you mean, dear mother? Eagerly inquired Ernest. Please tell me about it. So his mother told him a story that her own mother had told her when she herself was younger than little Ernest, that at some future day a child should be born near here who was destined to become the greatest and the noblest person of this time, and whose face in manhood should bear an exact resemblance to the great stone face. Many still had faith in this old prophecy, but others took it to be nothing but idle talk. At all events, the great man of the prophecy had not yet appeared. Now, here the mother tells him the story which her mother had told her before. Some day, some future day, a child would be born who would be looking same as a great stone face. Some people believe about this old prophecy and some just took it as a idle talk. At all events, the great man of the prophecy had not yet appeared. Oh, mother, cried Ernest, clapping his hands above his head. I do hope that I shall live to see him. His mother was an affectionate and thoughtful woman. It was proper, she thought, not to discourage the fanciful hopes of her little boy. So she said to him, perhaps you may. And Ernest never forgot the story that his mother told him. It was always in his mind whenever he looked upon the great stone face. He spent his childhood in the log cottage where he was born, was dutiful to his mother and helpful to her in many things, assisting her much with his little hands and more with his loving heart. In this manner, from a happy yet often pensive child, he grew up to be a mild and quiet youth. Here, fanciful means dreamy. The boy never lost hope, he never forgot the story of his mother, and he always wanted to see the face of the great stone face. He thought that one day at least that type of person will come and I would be able to see the face of that type of great stone face. Ernest had no teacher, but the great stone face became one to him. When the work of the day was over, he would gaze at it for hours. Gaze means look at it or stare at it until he began to imagine that those vast features recognized him and gave him a smile of kindness and encouragement. He used to always look at the great stone face and used to spend his many hours looking at it and imagining about it. About this time there went a rumor throughout the valley. The great man who was to bear the resemblance to the great stone face had appeared at last. It seems that many years before a young man had left the valley and settled at a distant seaport. Gathergold, which was his name, had set up as a shopkeeper and being sharp in business matters had become so very rich that it would have taken him 100 years only to count his wealth. In time, he thought of his native valley and decided to go back there and end his days where he had been born. Now, here there was a humor in the valley that the great man who looked like the great stone face had appeared at last. The humor was triggered by the homecoming of Mr. Gathergold, who had left the valley as young man and made a fortune in a distant seaport. His immense wealth prompted the great people perceive him like a likeness to the great stone face. The projected likeness made them also think that the prophecy was about to come true for the first time. Ernest had been deeply by the idea, moved by the idea that the great man, the noble man, the man of prophecy, after so many ages of delay, was at length to be sent in this native valley. While the boy was still gazing up the valley one day and imagining that the great stone face returned his gaze, the noise of wheels was heard and the crowd of people cried, "Here comes the great Mr. Gathergold." A carriage, drawn by the 4 horses, dashed round the turn of the road. Within it, thrust partly pushed half out of the window, appeared the face of an old man with yellow skin. "The very image of the great stone face," shouted the people. "Sure enough, the old prophecy is true. Here we have the great man at last." And what greatly puzzled Ernest, they seemed actually to believe that here was the likeness which they spoke of. He turned away sadly from the wrinkled shrewdness of that unpleasant face and gazed up the valley where the stone face seemed to say, "He will come, fear not, Ernest, the man will come." Now here Ernest was deeply moved when the people started talking that the Gathergold was looking like the great stone face. He did not see the likeness of the great stone face in Gathergold. He confided in his own heart that the Gathergold was not the right person he was waiting for. He was proved right because Gathergold died after some time. He was then a poor man. All of them said that he had no likeness with the stone face. The years went on. Ernest grew to be a young man. He attracted little notice from the inhabitants of the valley. Inhabitant means people living in the valley. They saw nothing remarkable in his way of life except that when the labor of the day was over, he still loved to gaze upon the great stone face. There was the idea there was folly but pardonable because Ernest was industrious, kind, and neighborly. Folly means mistake. Pardonable, forgivable. Industrious, hard-working. Neighborly, helpful. They did not know the great stone face had become a teacher to him, and that the sentiment was expressed in it would enlarge the young man's heart and fill it with deeper sympathies than other hearts. They did not know that from this would become a better wisdom than could be learned from books. Ernest had grown up to be a young man. Every day he would go off by himself and gaze upon the great stone face. He wondered why its likeness was delaying its appearance. Neither did the Ernest know that the thoughts which came to him was so naturally in the fields and at the fireside were of an higher tone than those which all men shared with him. A simple soul, simple as when his mother first told him the story. He beheld the marvelous face looking down the valley and still wondered why its human likeness was so long in coming. He was thinking why there is so long time. Why can't I see the man same as the face of the stone? By this time poor Mr. Gathergold was dead and buried. His wealth, which was the body and spirit of his existence, had disappeared. Since the melting away of his gold, it had been generally agreed that there was no great likeness, after all, between the ruined merchant and the majestic face upon the mountain. It so happened that one another son of the valley had become a soldier many years before. After a great deal of fighting, he was now a famous commander. He was known on the battlefield by the name of Blood and Thunder, old and tired. Now, he had lately expressed his desire to return to his native valley. The inhabitants, his old neighbors, and their grown up children prepared to welcome the renowned means the famous commander. It was being said that at last the likeness of the great stone face had actually appeared. Great, therefore, was the excitement throughout the valley, and many people who had never once thought of glancing means looking at the great stone face, now spent much time in gazing at it for the sake of knowing exactly how General Blood and Thunder rose to the position of commander from a soldier. He desired to return to his native valley. The residents of the valley said that he bore the likeness of the great stone face. His childhood friends also said that the general had always looked like the great stone face. On the day of General's arrival, Ernest and all other people of the valley left their work and proceeded to the spot where a great banquet means a feast, had been prepared. Soldiers stood on guard, flags waved, and the crowd roared. Ernest was standing too far back to see Blood and Thunder's face. However, he could hear the several voices. It's the same face exactly, cried one man, dancing for wonderfully like it. That's a fact, replied another. And why not? cried a third. Cried a third. He's the greatest man of this or any other age, beyond a doubt. Ernest at last could see the general's face, and in the same glance to the side, he could see the great stone face, if there was such a likeness as the crowd proclaimed. Ernest could not recognize it. Fear not, Ernest, said his heart, as if the great stone face was whispering to him. Fear not, Ernest, he will come. Ernest compared the face of Blood and Thunder with the great stone face. He could not find any similarity between them. Ernest at last concluded that the greatest and the noblest man of his time, bearing the resemblance to the great stone face, had yet to come. So children, here we finish the story of the part 1. In the next video, I will explain you about the part 2 story. Till then, bye.